So you want to own a capsule hotel.
Japan's capsule hotels are struggling to stay afloat during the coronavirus pandemic.
Where you're renting out the cheapest bed in Tokyo on some of the most expensive ground in the world. How is that supposed to make you any money? Or is it secretly making you a lot of money? Well, let's say you wire the money. What did you actually just buy? Not much on the face of it. A capsule is a plastic and fiberglass shell about the size of a single bed with a lid. About 6.5 feet long, 4 feet wide, a little over 3 feet tall. You buy them one at a time, and each one runs you around $3,500 by the time it's installed and wired for a light and a fan. Fit out 100 of them, add the shared bathrooms and the lockers, and you're looking at roughly $700,000 to open the doors. And that is excluding the cost for buying or renting a building. Now, the smart move is to take a building that's already standing, a tired business hotel or a dead office, and convert it. A full hotel built in central Tokyo can run close to $300 a square foot. A conversion comes in at a fraction of that, because the walls and the plumbing are already there. We'll cover the exact numbers for renting or buying a place later. First, we'll run some other numbers. Looking at just the interior, the barrier to entry is low. Well, lower than almost anything else you can put on a land this expensive. You fill it with pods and you're in business. And once you're in business, the whole revenue comes down to 2 questions. How many bodies can you fit in that space, and what percentage of beds can you keep occupied? The first answer is in how you use the floor. A normal budget hotel room in Tokyo is something like 150 square feet, and for one night that room sells exactly once, to a single guest who pays maybe 12 to 25,000 yen and has the whole thing to themselves. A capsule hotel looks at that same 150 square feet and sees a tremendous waste of space. A single capsule is only about 6.5 feet long and 4 feet wide, and you stack them 2 high like bunk beds, so in that same patch of floor, you can fit 6 of them, sometimes 8 if you keep the walkway tight. 6 guests paying 5 to 8,000 yen each is 30 to 48,000 yen total, and this is coming out of the exact footprint the hotel down the street is renting to one person for 15,000. That means, compared to a traditional budget hotel, you're getting 1.5 to 3 times as much revenue per square foot. And that is the entire concept of the business. A capsule hotel is really a machine for selling the same expensive square foot of Tokyo over and over again in a single night to as many bodies as the building codes will physically let you stack in the room. But having more people could also come with higher operating costs. So is that the case? It is, and not in a small way. Every one of those bodies you packed in needs the same things a regular hotel guest needs, only multiplied out across the whole floor. Each one gets a clean set of sheets, a towel, usually one of those little kits with a toothbrush and a razor, slippers, sometimes a robe as well. 100 pods full means 100 sets of all of it washed and restocked every single day, while the business hotel down the road is turning over maybe 30 rooms. Your laundry bill and your cleaning crew are doing 3 times the work on that same patch of floor. We'll run all of these numbers and estimates at the end of the video. For now, we're just documenting everything we have to cover. Next, there's the water. A capsule hotel uses shared baths instead of a single one per room, and a proper communal bath in central Tokyo is running hot water and heating around the clock for a crowd of people who paid 5,000 yen and still expect a real soak at the end of the night. The air conditioning humming inside every single pod increases the overall utility bill even further. Again, we'll run these exact numbers later, because we still haven't talked about rent, which doesn't care whether your pods are empty or full. Now again, that building was not in the cheap part of town. A capsule hotel only works near a station where tired people spill out at midnight. Commercial space in central Tokyo runs around 20,000 yen per tsubo a month, and a tsubo is about 35 square feet. A building big enough for 100 pods, plus the baths and the lounge, is a few hundred tsubo across a few floors. So you're looking at something like 4 to 5 million yen a month in rent before a single guest checks in, which is about $30,000. If you'd rather own it instead of rent, a whole commercial building in central Tokyo starts north of 100 million yen, about 700k USD, and climbs fast from there. That is without any of the interior we talked about previously. Now put the 2 numbers together. The floor that earns and the floor that costs. 100 pods, full every night, is 3,000 paid nights a month. At 5,000 yen a pod, that's 15 million yen coming in. At 8,000 yen, That is 24 million. Strip out the running costs from the last section, as well as the booking platform costs, which is typically about 10 to 15%. Call it a third combined with operating costs like utilities, and you're down to 10 to 16 million yen. Take off the 5 million in rent or mortgage, and you've got 5 to 10 million left rounded down, which is still about $30,000 to $60,000. Which sounds nice until you realize you still have to cover wages, and perhaps the loan on the $700,000 of pods you installed. What's left after that is your profit, and it's thinner than the brochure made it look. Let's start with the staff. A capsule hotel runs lean, but you still need somebody at the front desk every hour of the day and night, and a cleaning crew that can flip 100 pods and scrub the baths every morning before the next wave checks in. In a city where wages climb every year, that's something like 3 million yen a month, close to $20,000. The revenue you had left is now down to 2 to 7 million yen, about $13,000 to $43,000. Then the loan. You put $700,000 into pods and fit out, and unless you had that money sitting in a drawer, you borrowed it. On a 10-year loan at around 5%, you're handing the bank a little over a million yen every month, roughly $7,500 before you've cleared a single yen of profit. Take that off and you're down to 1 million to 6 million yen, somewhere around $6,000 or $37,000. Average it out and you're looking at about 21K a month in profit. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, that is only if you're running an insanely well month with 100% occupancy. Drop to 60% occupancy, which is an ordinary Tuesday in an ordinary month, and the money coming in falls by a third, while the rent doesn't move a yen and the cleaners still work full time. Your operating costs do go down as we base those on 1/3, not as a set number. So what does that realistic scenario look like? Let's run it again. 60% occupancy means that instead of 3,000 paid nights, you sell about 1,800. At 5,000 yen a pod, that's 9 million yen coming in, around $60,000. At 8,000 yen on a better stretch, 14 million, call it 95,000. The operating costs shrink with it. Take off that third and you're down to 6 to 9.5 million yen, roughly $40,000 to $64,000. Now the fixed costs come for you, which don't shrink at all. The rent is still 5 million, the same $30,000 it was on the perfect month. That leaves you somewhere between 1 million yen and 4.5. $7,000 on the low side, 30,000 on the good one. Then wages, another 3 million yen, $20,000. On the low end, you're now 2 million yen in the hole. On a good stretch, you've got about 1.5 million left. And the loan still wants its million yen, it's $7,500, every single month, no matter how many beds were warm. So on a quiet month at the lower rate, this 100-pod hotel loses something like 3 million yen, $20,000 in 30 days. On a good run at the higher rate, it clears maybe a few thousand. Even if you average it out on those numbers, you're still at a loss. So where's the break-even point? The rent is 5 million yen a month. Add 3 million for wages and another million for the loan, and you've got 9 million yen, about $60,000, that goes out whether you sell 1 pod or 100. Across a year of cheap Tuesdays and sold-out weekends, a pod averages somewhere around 6,500 yen a night, about $43. But a third of every booking walks straight back out in laundry and booking fees, so each filled pod really only leaves you a bit over 4,000 yen of actual margin. Divide the 9 million yen of fixed costs by that margin, and you get the number the whole business turns on. You need to sell roughly 2,100 pod nights a month just to break even, and there are only 3,000 in the entire month to sell. So your break even sits at about 70% occupancy, just to walk away with nothing. Which really is a normal healthy rate, considering most budget hotels target 75 to 90% occupancy, which would in this scenario net you around $5,000 to $18,000 a month. Again, not bad without calculating in anything breaking or maintenance costs. There is one more important trend to know though. For the last few years, pod hotels have been riding on the biggest tourism wave Japan has ever seen. In 2019, about 32 million foreigners visited Japan, and everyone assumed that was the ceiling. Then in 2024, the country pulled in almost 37 million, a brand new record, and in 2025, it blew past 40 million. All these people need somewhere to sleep, and a lot of them want it cheap and central, with a bit of novelty on top. Exactly where pod hotels came in. Meaning with those numbers, your nightly rates could even double or triple, which is insane. Though admittedly the real estate prices have probably increased with that surge. So take it with a grain of salt that you're also paying a lot higher costs in rent or mortgage payment. Funnily enough, the Capsule Hotel was never built for tourists. The first one opened in Osaka in 1979, designed for Japanese businessmen who'd missed the last train home after too many drinks and just needed a cheap box to sleep off the night. For 40 years, it was a domestic product. Now it's a bucket list experience tourists fly in and book on purpose because they saw it on a screen. So the customers swapped a bit. The beds that keep this whole fragile machine above break-even are filled, night after night, by people from another country who are here on vacation. Which is fine, as long as they keep coming. And the one thing we know for certain about tourists is that every so often they stop, like in 2020. When the borders closed, Japan went from 32 million visitors to about 4 million in a single year. Every pod those tourists weren't sleeping in still owed rent and still owed the bank. First Cabin, one of the biggest capsule chains in the country, filed for bankruptcy with nearly 4 billion yen in debt. It's not always rainbows and sunshine. So, back to where we started. The cheapest bed in Tokyo sitting on some of the most expensive ground on Earth. Is it secretly making a lot of money? When it's full? Hell yes. It's one of the most efficient ways ever invented to squeeze cash out of a patch of expensive floor, and at 90% occupancy, it can hand its owner a couple $100,000 a year, plus a building that slowly pays for itself. At a normal occupancy rate, it's still doing well. Would you consider buying one? What did I miss? Let me know in the comments.